Hello guys, so welcome to another SQL session from CHECKSUM. In this video, we're going to see how to compare two tables based on all columns available in these two tables. So here we have two tables named source 1 and source 2. We having four columns on each of these tables with the exact data type on both of the tables. So here we have a sequential ID column and three different value columns for a table. So the sequential ID is which is one the in which is an integer is expecting to be same in both the tables, which is actually we're going to use for joining these two tables, and the other three columns from value 1 to value 3 is actually we're going to use for the comparison operation. So first we're going to create the source 1, then we're going to create the source 2. So we have two tables in our databases, the hex was now. So the next step is we're going to insert some data to both of these tables. So I have already prepared a script for doing so. So here you can see I'm going to create insert five rows to the source one. You can see here some colors. Okay, I'm going to insert the five rows here, and uh, the to the second table also we're going to insert some values. Okay, now our table, the source 1 and source 2, have some data inserted in it. Okay, now the question here is how do we find out the sequential arrays which is having the same value for these three columns on both the tables. So I need the sequential array 1, 3, 5, because we can see that for these three rows the value for these three columns are similar in these two tables. For the row number 2, you can see that the value for the column 3 is different, and for also the for the sequential id 4, the value for the value 3 column is different on these two tables. So I only need the sequential ID 1, 3, and 5. So how do you write a SQL query for this comparison? How do you find out the sequential ID 1, 3, 5 from this? So one of the simplest way to do is by writing a query for by joining these two tables, and we compare each of the three columns here. So I just wrote a simple SQL query for doing so. In this query, we just selecting a sequential ID from the our source table A, the source one, and I just done it by querying the source one, joining the source one with the source two based on our sequential ID column, which is present in both the tables, and by adding a comparison operation for each of the column we intended to compare. So we actually comparing three columns. So we for each of the columns we just wrote a comparison operation just by like this, just by doing the value 1 equal to value 1 on the other table, and value 2 on the other table, value 3 on the other table. So by executing this query, yeah, as you can see, we got the values 1, 3, and 5. Okay, now let's say that our source table having 30 number of columns, and we need to compare these two tables by comparing these 30 columns. In that case, it will be quite difficult to write a query like this, because we need to add a comparison operation for each of these 30 columns. So in that case, we have another way to do the comparison, which is nothing but a function called checksum. Checksum is nothing but it will generate a hash code based on the input value. We can add a star here, because it will generate a hash code for the entire row by if let's say if our table have three columns, it will generate a hash code by getting the three column values, and it will output a single long hash code. So we can also put the star here, or else we can specify the comma separated column and name. So what we do here is we just create a hash code for each of the row in our both in our tables. I mean, we are going to create a temporary tables for the source one and for also the source two, and we will just insert the sequential ID together with the hash code of the entire row. So for the table one, source one, we're going to create and insert the data, the data is having the checksum with together with the sequential id, and also for the source to be going to insert the checksum with the sequential id. Now we have two temporary tables with the sequential id and the hash code we just created for that particular row. And now we're going to what we're going to do is we just join these two temporary tables based on our sequential IDs, which is similar in both the temporary tables. And instead of the comparison, we actually here we use it here, which was all the column values. We just add the hash code we just created. So let's say what happened if we just execute this query. You see here we have got the exact result just by before we got by executing this query. So this query result is same. So we actually done it by writing a simple query comparing to the older query. This is quite useful if the number of columns in the comparison is much larger. Let's say it 10 or 15 or 20 columns. So if the number of columns in the comparison is much bigger, we can use the checksum function, which will be quite easy to write. So okay, we do have another function also, which is named binary checksum, which is quite similar to checksum. The difference is that the binary checksum is always case sensitive if even if the case insensitivity settings is enabled for the server. So the binary checksum will return two different string if the input string is different. There is a difference in the case of the input string. The checksum will return same output code for output code if even if the since case of the input string is different. And one more thing to consider is the tables or the columns we comparing, it should have the exact collation on both of the tables. If the collation is different, the checksum will return different values for the same input string. So that's all about in this video. I hope you guys liked this video and it will be useful for you guys. Thank you.